Yeah, so this week we're gonna pick up where we left off from last week. So last week we ended with an application that is able to allow you to view your current jobs. And obviously from that screen, you are able to add a job based off a job description. So here I can say, for example description. Then I'm gonna get a new job, and I'm also able to edit my CV. And obviously we added that delay to kind of like simulate fetching the CV from the database. So here I can say this is an example CV. Then I can save it. So we have this foundation that we did last week with Angular, which allows us to now build on top of it to add more robust features. And one of those features, which is what we're going to add today, is authentication. So we have an application, but now what you want to do is two things. One, we want to secure it in the sense that in order to access it, you need to have an account. And if you don't have an account, you're going to create an account, right? So that's the first thing we want to do. The second thing we want to do, or not the second thing we want to do, but the second reason why you want to secure it is so that you can actually, once you've deployed this website, which we're going to do next week, you can actually share the link with some of your friends, even family, and they will be able to access its features like load their jobs and be able to track those job applications. And what part of what we're doing today is to allow them to actually have that separated data, in the sense that you can only access data that is in your account. You can't access another person's jobs or list of jobs. So that's part of what we're doing today, basically. Just making sure that our users can log in to our application. And obviously, part of logging in is to be able to create an account and be able to sign in. So we're going to use something called Firebase Auth. It's part of the Firebase offering. And what it allows us to do is to actually implement these cool features called, or this cool feature called authentication. But before we go far, let's start with the simple stuff. Um, I would say our starting point can be, what's the easiest thing to implement? Okay, first of all, let's create a Firebase project. I have already created one here on Firebase. So if you go to firebase.google.com, you click login to the console, you're going to be taken to this screen. And from this screen, you're going to be able to create a new project. And because it takes a bit of time to actually create a project, I've already created one here because it has to set up your services and everything. I've already created one here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to log into my project, and it's going to open. Everything is going to be empty. We haven't, or the project is going to be empty because we haven't set up anything yet, which is okay because that's what we're about to fix, right? What I actually want us to go to is something called apps. No, not you. So if you go to your project settings, go to general, and if you scroll down a bit, you're going to see something called apps. So if you don't have an option here, just click on create a new app, call it whatever you want, and it's going to be a web application. So select a web application from the options that you get. And if it's the first time you using Firebase, I think what they're going to do is give you a pop-up to say, create your first app, in which case your app will show up here. So like I said, I've already created my project and my app. So I have all of that here. So what you're going to do is follow the instructions to set up Firebase for our project. And the first step is to install Firebase. So if you copy the command that you're given, npm install Firebase, and just gonna close this project. We're gonna stop it for now. I'm gonna paste that command here, and I'm gonna install Firebase. Let's see if we can make the font bigger. Yeah, that's a bit bigger. Okay, npm install Firebase. So now we've installed Firebase. What you want to do is copy the configuration for our application. So just copy this whole thing here from API key to measurement ID, just copy all of that. So these are basically the keys that your app is going to use to connect to the Firebase backend to access all this cool functionality for authentication and later on for the database. So copy all of that, this part here. If you're missing me, this part here. And remember last week we set up a file called environment.typescript. And now we can actually use that file. Oh, we didn't. Hectic, I thought we did. There's a file called environment.typescript that I think we should set up now. Where can we put it? Okay, anyways, let's actually edit. Let's actually edit now. So we're gonna create a new file and we're gonna call it environment, call it environment.ts. Then you're going to save that, or not save it, create the file. And what you're going to do is export this configuration that we got from Firebase. So environment, our environment is going to be equal to all of this, and then just paste in the configuration you got from Firebase. Put it here, then click save. Okay, so now you have an environment with Firebase file, which means that our application now has what it needs to actually connect to Firebase for authentication purposes. And speaking of authentication purposes, we might as well go ahead and create our authentication service. So remember, a service is where you implement the logic that actually communicates with your backend. So our authentication service will allow us to actually communicate with our, what should you call it? Our authentication backend, which is going to be Firebase Auth. So create authentication service, and where can we start? Well, it's a service. The first thing we can do is say, create a new class, call it an auth service. Okay, so call it an auth service. And because it's a Firebase app, we want to track, we want to keep track of the Firebase connection, right? Oh, actually, that's a nice way to put it. For our application to communicate with Firebase, it needs to set up a connection with Firebase. And we do that via this thing called an app. In fact, let's make it private. Private app initialize is equal to initialize. Initialize app. We're going to get back to the error. Why are you not giving me the autocomplete that I need? Oh, there we go. The second option. Okay, initialize the app, and the configuration that you want to use to connect to Firebase is the environment file that we created, right? So remember, we created an environment file like a few seconds ago. Environment. Yeah, use the environment file. Okay, so now it's going to be able to use those credentials to connect to Firebase. And the part of Firebase that we want to access is the auth, what should you call it? The auth functionality. And how we do that is obviously we're going to create an auth object, Firebase auth object, and we're going to say get auth. And what we're going to do, we're going to use this.app to give us the auth object that we're going to use to actually authenticate with Firebase. Why are you not pulling in? My autocomplete is not behaving. Why is it not auto-completing? Okay, anyways, let's bring it in manually. Okay, auth. Oh, it's not there. Firebase auth. Okay. Bring it in. Bring in the auth class, and we want to use the get auth function. What this function is going to do is going to use our app, our initialize app, Firebase app, and it's going to use that app to actually get the auth component of that application. So we're going to use this auth object a lot because that's the one that we're going to use to communicate with Firebase. Okay, I hope that makes sense. What we can add is the current user. Okay, so if someone is logged into the application, we want to allow the application to be able to pull in that currently logged in user. And how we do that, there's different ways to do it. One way to do it is to use something called an observable. An observable, which is basically a stream of events, right? So the idea here is that we're going to use the Firebase auth object here to listen for changes to the currently logged in user. And that's going to allow us to, for example, tell when a user is logged in, tell when a user is logged out, etc. So every time the logged in user changes, we're going to be able to listen to those changes through this observable. So the pattern for Angular to name observables is to use the $sign at the end of the observable name. So it's like a normal variable name, except that we just add the $sign. But don't confuse it. It's just like normal variable name. Okay. And how can you do this one? Okay. Let's create a new observable. Let's do it from scratch. Create a new observable. And obviously, this observable is going to be our user. And if there's no user signed in, we're going to have null for the observable. And how it's going to behave is, let's do something like this. How it's going to behave is that when the currently logged in user changes, right, on auth state change or on auth state changed, for this auth object, what you want to do is this observable should fire, right? This observable should fire. And to make our lives a lot easier here, what we can do actually is to add a share replay. So what share replay does, if you read on RxJS, what it does is that when when somewhere in your code you subscribe to listen to the changes to the user, it's going to replay the previous event. Obviously here we specify 1, so it's going to replay the previous event. If you specify 2, it's going to replay the past 2 events, but you don't really care about that, right? You just want to replay the past event. So set that to 1. Okay, so when they sign up, have the sign up functionality, they're going to use their email, and an email is a string, and they're going to use a password, of course. So we're going to implement email password auth. Ooh, now that I remember, we need to enable email password auth from our Firebase application. So if you go to your app, you're going to see a tab called authentication. If you don't have this authentication tab, go to security. Under product categories, go to security and look for authentication, right? Then you're going to end up on this authentication tab. And then go to sign in method. Here, obviously, if you don't have this set up already, you're going to have an empty list. But if you have an empty list, you can say add a new provider and select email password from the list. Okay. I've already selected it here, so I'm okay. You're going to select email password. Okay. And then your app is now going to allow people to sign in with their email and password. A nice exercise, if you really want to take it far, is to allow them to also sign in with Google. And see how far you can take that. In fact, it's a lot easier if people can sign in with Google, because almost everyone has a Google account. Okay, but we have email password auth set up. So now we can actually do the actual sign up logic. So when someone signs up, and this is really simple because we're using Firebase, what you can do is return the result of calling create user with email and password, right? With email and password. And what this is going to do, obviously, this is going to be done against the auth object that we created, and we're going to pass in the email and the password that we get from the user form as obviously as they're signing in, right? So this is going to allow us to create a new user when someone chooses to sign up. But if someone already has an account, what you want to do is allow them to sign in. And again, when they sign in, they're going to use the email and password, right? This is going to be a string, and their password is also going to be a string. Okay. Same thing here, except now we're not creating a user. What you want to do is sign in with email and password. There's different ways to sign in, but we want to use email and password specifically. And you're going to say email, and you're going to say, oh, we need to pass in the auth object. Remember, every time we call Firebase functionality, we need to pass the object that we're calling that functionality against. So in this case, we want the auth functionality. Okay. this is cool. Just to explain a bit on how the sign in and sessions work. When you sign up a new user, um, we're going to get a token that authenticates that user to call things on your backend. This could be your database, it could be functions, it could be etc. or whatever stuff you have, right? And when that token is going to be saved on the user's device. So in this case, this is a web app. So the token will be saved on the what is it called, local storage web API, or via the local storage web API, and the token will be saved. Same as when they sign in, um, the email and password is going to be sent to Firebase Auth, and in return, we're going to get a token that allows the user to call, obviously, functionality on your backend, and that token will be saved on your local storage, which means then when someone signs out, we want to clear that token, because that token represents a signed in session, or a session that someone has signed in, meaning when they sign out, or when they log out of your application, you want to clear that session. Basically, no one is logged in after when someone has signed out. And that is really simple. So what you're going to do is call it log out and return, obviously, the result of signing out. And again, pass in the auth object. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Feel free to message on the WhatsApp group if something doesn't make sense, or just drop messages on the chat. Okay, so that's our auth clause. This is not a Git repo. Okay, that's okay. We'll come back to that. Okay, so now we have our auth clause. I'm just trying to think which one can we do next. Oh, let's do the auth guard. So here's something really cool. Your app, when someone lands on your app for the first time, if they try to go to any page that requires them to sign in, you want your app to be able to say, go back and sign in, because you haven't signed in to access this functionality. And the component in Angular that actually does that is called an auth guard, right? And basically, every time Angular says this user is trying to access this page, you can control whether or not they should be allowed to access that page. And obviously, in our case, we want to use the what do you call this? We want to use the currently logged in user, which we created here. So that's what you're going to do. So I'm going to create something called guards. Create a new file. Call it guards, and let's call it an auth. An auth guard.ts. Okay, so under guards, we're going to have a file called an auth guard.ts, and obviously it's going to be an auth guard. Export const auth guard. Angular calls it can activate, and it's basically a function that you implement, and the function basically should use the current state of your application to determine if the user should be allowed to go through or not. Auth guard. Let's pull in the auth service. Okay, no need for that, since we can just use inject. So remember, inject allows you to use the services that you have registered. Now that I've thought about it, let's make this an injectable. So this is going to be an injectable, and it's going to be provided in the root scope. Okay, so we're going to inject the auth service. Inject is not defined, so let's pull that in. Okay, there we go. Let's also pull in the router. So the router allows us to tell Angular where to go. It's basically routing the pages that the user should go to as part of what they're doing, or what they're trying to do. So this is going to pull in the router, and now this is the function you want to return. And sorry, not the function. This is what the function or our auth guard should do. So you're going to say auth service .current user, the user that we created, and let's take the user. You only want to take the first instance of it. Take the first instance of it, and we want to map that user such that we can return true or false if they, or we can return true if they are signed in and return false if they are not signed in. So we're going to take the user. I'm going to show you now what I mean by that. Let's fix the import here. So map rxjs, there we go. So if the user exists, right? If there is a user, we're going to return true in the sense that they actually can go through, right? And if there is no user, we want them to be routed to the login page. So if there is no user, it means that no one has logged in on this app, or the user has not logged in yet. So if they have not logged in, we want them to be routed to the login page. Okay. Obviously, there's different ways to route users to different pages, but this is one easy way to do it. So if there is a user, return true, they can proceed to the page they're trying to access. And if there is no user, let's route them to the login page. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So that's our auth guard. I'm trying to think if we need another one. So we have the home page, and then we have the dashboard page. Okay, we're gonna come back to there. We're gonna come back if we need another auth guard, but that's what we have so far. Okay, now we can actually go and actually add the login page and the sign up pages. So remember, we have well, login requires two functionality, two pieces of functionality. That is to be able to log in, or three actually, to be able to log in, to be able to sign in, to be able to sign in, to be able to sign up, and to be able to sign out. Okay, so the one that we're going to do first is the sign-in page. Just thinking how we can do the sign-in page. Okay, anyways, let's just go for it. Create a file and call it sign. Just call it login. Login, and this will be the login dot component .component.ts file, and this is going to be where our login functionality will be sitting. Okay. Okay. Implement a component, export class, login. So private. Obviously, we want the auth service to be there, of course, because we need to access the auth functionality. Because well, it is a login page after all. Okay, inject the auth service, and there we go. Come on, there we go. Okay, now of course, once someone successfully logs into the application, we want to be able to redirect them to what do you call this? To the dashboard page. So which means we need the router again so that we can actually redirect them to the login page, sorry, to the dashboard page once they've successfully logged in. So inject, and we want the router here. Okay, I can be muted sometimes because my mic can have issues. I'm just checking if I'm not muted. Okay, I'm not muted. Cool. So we got the router. So now we should be able to do all the cool things on the login page. Let's create a method called submit. So this will be called when they submit the form. So remember, login is going to be a form that they're going to click on, so that they're going to fill in with their email and password to do actual logging in, right? So this is what it's going to be called when they try to log in, which means we should be able to actually keep track of the email that they're putting in. So as they're typing, we want to store the email here. And as they're typing, obviously, we want to be able to store the password as well. And if there is an error message, we want to be able to handle that and display it For example, someone might try to log in with an email and password, and those two don't match on the back end. So we want to be able to show what do you call this? We want to be able to show when there is an error when trying to log in, and submitting is what you're going to use to determine if the application is submitting the form to the backend, which means we can control those here. Obviously, when we try to submit for the first time, we want to be able to clear the message. So when you're trying to submit, you need to clear the message, meaning when someone fills in the information, they click submit, and then they get an error. When they click submit again, the error should disappear as the retry is happening again. So this is why we're actually clearing the error. Okay, and obviously since we are submitting, we're going to say submitting is true. I'm going to remove the try so we can type this out properly. Now we're going to say do the sign in, and what you're going to pass is obviously the email, the password, and the page we're going to go to is the dashboard page. Okay, so here we're going to sign in. We're going to await for the sign in to finish. That's why we use await. And if you're going to use await, obviously you do need to say async, right? So we're going to await for the sign in to finish. Once the sign in is finished, we're going to navigate to the dashboard. Navigate to the dashboard. Let's actually do this even better. Let's just use a navigate. Navigate to the dashboard, right? So if they've signed in successfully, we're going to navigate to the dashboard. If there is an error, right? If there is an error, catch whatever error you get. Let's say error. If there is an error, we're going to set the error message that invalid email password. Try again. Okay. I hope that makes sense. And obviously, at the end of it all, we no longer submitting. So we're going to set is submitting to false. So that's our login page. And obviously, our login page is it's an Angular component. So we need to annotate it as such. So it's going to be a component. It's going to be a component. I'm going to call it app login, and it's going to be login. Obviously, this is where it's going to get its template. We're going to create this file now. In fact, let's go ahead and create it now. Create this file, login.component.html. We're going to come back to it. Pull in component. Pull in component. I might have to type it out also. Anyways, component. Did you mean component? Oh, I have double P, that's why. Okay, component. So pull in the component. This way its URL will be, its template URL will be. And what you're going to use is Angular Forms. So we're going to use Angular Forms. In fact, we also need the routing module. So let's go ahead and say imports. It imports forms module, and it also imports the router, the routing module, which we're just going to say router link for now. Okay, we're going to come back to this. I was to put a comma there. Okay, now we can actually work on our HTML page. So I'm not sure about the styling for this. Just think about it. Okay, it's gonna have a main. Okay, let's give it a heading. And we're just gonna say it's the sign in heading. And let's say here is if we have an error. If we have an error message, we're going to show the error message with the P tag. I think a P tag should be fine. We're going to show the error message. Okay, and obviously we would just want to display this in a way that shows actually an error message. So we're going to use the Bootstrap alert, and we're going to use the alert alert danger styling. This is just going to give it a nice style to show that it's actually something that the user should see that something went wrong, right? Okay, remember using forms. So you're going to make a form. We're going to come back to the action, but for now, let's do this. Let's add the stuff that are in the form, right? So the form is going to have a section, and should we split our inputs to sections? Anyways, no, let's go for sections. Here we're going to request the email. So, sorry. Obviously, this is required, right? So we might as well just add this. It's a required field. Requesting an email. It's a text input. So it's a text input. Maybe we can use, it's a text input, but we can be more specific and just say it's an email input. That way the browser can actually provide suggestions of the emails the user has used in the past, right? So if you say it's an email, it's able to provide suggestions for the user to use. Okay, give it a bit of styling. It's a form control like we've done with all our inputs. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's not give it anything. Obviously, it needs to be able to update the email field that we set up in our model or in our view model, right? So I'm going to say ng model. The ng model will be the email field that we had set up. Ng model. I think the M is capital. There we go. Okay, that's going to be our email input. Let's give it a label just so the user can see that this is where they put in the email, right? I think email, that's the easiest one. I'm going to say class is, it's a form label. Okay, just so this is aligned nicely. Nope, we actually don't need, since the label, we don't need to add it there. Let's do something similar, but now for the password, right? So that's the email input. So now I want to do something similar for password input. Is my mic still working? My mic is still working. Good. We're going to do something similar for the password input. We're going to call this password. The model, of course, will be password, and it's also required. Well, they both going to be required. This one is password, and type is going to be password. This is so setting email, or setting the first input to type email and the second one to type password, allows the browser to use its password key store, or its password vault for so you know, like in a browser you can save your passwords, right? So when you set the type to password and here the type to email, it's able to suggest passwords that you might have saved for this website to actually be able to log in with the same passwords without having to retype your password. Okay, that's our inputs. Maybe we can also add a button here at the bottom so that when the user clicks this button, then we are able to what should we call it? We are able to actually do the action of signing into the application. So what I'm going to do to be a bit fancy here, remember we're keeping track of this is submitting field. So what we can do, we can use this field to determine if the user is signing in or signing in is in progress, right? Signing in is in progress, or they are still filling in the information and then they should sign in. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And obviously this is a submit button on the form. So what you're going to set this to is submit. So the type is going to be submit, and this is just going to submit the form, right? Let's give it some styling just so it looks like a button. BTN, it's a primary button because it's the only button on the screen. I'm thinking if maybe we can disable it when the user is signing in, right? So if we are signing in, we don't want the user to click it again and then attempt another sign in while the first sign in is still going on, right? Because people can just spam sign ins. So what we can do is control whether or not it's disabled by actually looking at whether we are submitting, right? But also, if the form is not valid, right? If the form is not valid, we don't want the user to be able to click the sign in button. What is our form called? We need to give our form a name. I'm going to call it hash login form. That's going to give it a name, and it's going to be an ng form, of course. It's an Angular form. So if the login form is invalid, then this user should not be allowed to proceed. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and then obviously when our form gets submitted, when the form is submitted, ng and submit, we want on submit to be called. Okay. So remember, the button is set to type submit. So when the user clicks on this, the form will initiate a submission to basically submit it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But now, when you know with like a lot of websites, right? When you try to go to login screens and all those kind of screens, there's some text at the bottom that you can actually use to navigate between signing in and signing up. So you're going to do the same thing for our application. If you don't have an account, right? If you don't have an account, what you want to do is allow you to actually sign in. Sorry, to go to the sign up screen where you can actually create an account. And this is going to sign up. It's going to take them to the sign up page where they can sign up. Okay. I think these will be too close to each other. Let's give this one some padding. Maybe some margin top. Let's give it 3. And then obviously the text that should be, the text should be center aligned. Okay. What else do we need to sign here? So this will be too close. This will be too close to this one. Let's give it some margin bottom. Maybe same 3 there, or maybe 4. I think 4 is not bad. Okay, I think that's it for the login page. We're gonna see now what it looks like. Let's give our main tag there, the container class, and do we need to, because this text here will be touching the top, right? So let's give it like a margin top. Okay. This looks okay. Okay, so now we should be able to test our application, and that's what we have. That's what we need to do now. We just want to test the sign-in part at least. But before we get there, let's actually tell Angular that we have a login page. So we're going to go to app.routes.ts. So remember, we have this page here that's empty. We have the dashboard page, and we also have what do you call this? The catch-all to take them to the home page. Okay. So what we also want to do is add the login page to this list. So Angular knows that we have a login page. Load component. Load component, and this will import our login page. This module doesn't exist. Okay. That's interesting. The module does exist. Am I missing the path here or something? Pages, login, login page, and did I clear everything? The login page, login.component. Okay, there we go. So now we can find it. I'm thinking that's it. we should be able to now run it. Let's think about this. Yeah, we should be able to run it. But let's do one more thing, just so we don't forget to do it. There's something called app.ts. It's this one here. Okay, no, we're going to come back to this. So we should be able to run our application now. npm start. Because what I wanted to do is to add a logout page, but I just realized that we don't even have an account to log into, so there won't be a reason to log out. But we're gonna do the logout after. So now we started our application. So if I now go to my browser here, you're gonna see, obviously, so you can see for now, right? I can hit refresh, it goes to the dashboard. But if I say log in, it takes me to the login page where I can actually now attempt a sign into Firebase. So I'm going to use a fake email at the test, and I want to use a fake password. Ooh, this button needs a margin top. Let's actually do that. Login. The button. Let's give it a margin top of 3. That should be okay. What? Oh, 3S. What am I missing? Failed if ng model is used within a form tag, either the name attribute must be set or the form control must be defined as standalone. Okay, nope, we don't want to do that. Okay, we're going to come back to that error. I don't know what that error is for now. But anyways, if we now go back to our browser here, you're going to see, wait, how did you mess up our button? Margin top of 3. I think it's the error that's happening now. Okay. Reload this. Okay, no. Our button is not happy. Our button is not happy. Let's just fix that. So button submit, btn, yada, yada. Well, we do need the margin top. Can't lie about that. Okay, let's just fix the form part. If ng model is used within a form tag, either the name attribute must be set or the form control must be defined as standalone in ng model options. I'm not sure what that error is, hey? Let's put this side by side. We can figure it out quickly. Let's just read it one more time. So if ng model is used within a form tag, so ng model is used here. This is where we use ng model. Either the name attribute must be set or the form control must be specified. No, well, we definitely don't want to specify the standalone. This is a simple example for that. Either the name attribute must be set. Well, we can just set the name attribute. Okay, I'm going to set name is equal to email. Set the password to password. Sorry, the name here is going to be password. Okay, now it should be happy. There we go, it is happy. So now if I come back here, we can see our sign in button. So now if I put in a fake email, test@test.com, test@test.com, and fake password, try to sign in. Remember, this account doesn't exist. So this we expect to fail. Why is it taking so long? I'm going to clear this, try to sign in again, or try to log in again. Test at test.com. Put in a fake password. It's complaining that you're passing in invalid data to auth.typescript. Line 23, that's this line here. What? Why would you pass invalid data? You're passing in the password, you're passing in the email. If I come here, not here, this one here. You're passing in the email, you're passing in the password. Let's just do this quickly. Okay. I just want to log the data that we're sending out to Firebase, just so I know. Okay, this is correct data. That's what happens when you code live. So this is fine. If we come here, this is fine. Our app is initialized here. That looks okay to me. Sorry, I have the documentation open on the other screen, just so I understand what's happening here. Let's check the environment.ts file. This looks okay, and it's exactly what we copied from our application settings. This looks okay. Initialize the app. Yeah, we're good. I wonder what it's complaining about. One more time. Okay, so what we can do is open the network tab. Then you try to sign in again. Clear that. Let's try to sign in again. Test.com, and then do that, and then try to sign in. Then it's going to tell us what's wrong in the response, right? Invalid login credentials. What? Oh, we're not handling the errors properly. My bad. So basically, it's saying invalid login credentials because we know we're using an account that doesn't exist. And there we go. This one is finally showing up. Hectic. I think it's the browser within VS Code that's really throwing me off here, because we wanted to see this. This is what we expected to see. Okay. So we know that the user account doesn't exist. That's why we're getting this error. There's nothing wrong with our code. That's the good part. Okay. That sorts out the login page. The other page you want to do is the sign up page. So now you can log in. So if I do something like this, it's going to take us to the dashboard because, well, we don't have sign up page yet. So I'm going to create a sign up page. Sign up.component ts. And this page is basically going to be the same as our login page. There's really nothing much to it. You're going to keep track of the same fields, etc. So there's really nothing fancy that we're going to do here. Export class is going to be sign up. Obviously, we have to import our auth service like we did before. In fact, let's make our life a lot easier here. Take all of this and bring it down here. Okay. Do the imports. Nope. Do the imports. Auth service. Do the router. And now the difference here is that we don't want to sign in. We want to sign up. Okay. Same thing, but you're not signing in. We're signing up, right? Same error handling, but we're going to show a different error. We want to show a different error here. So we can say something like could not create account, could not create an account. That email may already be in use. Okay. Obviously, it's going to be the same thing for, okay, let's do the component stuff. It's an Angular component. Sign up component. We need the forms module. We need the router links module. Sign up the component.html. We're going to create this file. Okay, and obviously we're going to copy from here. Same thing, except we're just signing up instead of signing in. Okay, so we're going to call it sign up, or let's be fancy, create an account. Create an account. If there's an error message, show the error message. Let's rename this. It's not the login form anymore. It's the sign in form. Sorry, it's a sign up form. Where's my rename? Sign up form. Okay. What? Sign up form. Okay. That sorts that out. So we're obviously going to have the name, sorry, the email, we're going to have the password, and then is submitting, sign up form, not invalid. Call it creating account. Creating account. And you can say this one is create account. Okay. Don't have an account yet. Here we want to say already have an account. Already have an account. Go sign in. Okay, and obviously this is going to take them to the login page. Did we call it the login page? I think that's what we called it, the login page. Okay, and again, same thing here. Our app needs to know of, or our routing logic needs to know that we have a page called the sign up page. So it needs to know, it needs to redirect them to the sign up page when we get the sign up page, right? Nope, sign up. This should be sign up. And then this can be sign up. Okay. So if we refresh that, it's already refreshed. So now if I come back here, you're gonna see I say login. If I already have an account, go to the sign up page, which is going to say create account. If I don't have an account, I can go to the sign in page. Okay. Now we can start using our auth guard. I think that can be the next part. So remember our auth guard. But before I show you, if I now go to the dashboard, I can just go to the dashboard even though I don't have an account. If I go to home, I can go to home without having an account. Dashboard. So what we're going to do is set up the dashboard, or set up our user auth guard, such that if I go to the dashboard without having signed up, I am forced to sign in. If I go to the dashboard without being signed in, I am forced to sign in. And the easiest way to do that is go to your routes config. Hectic, there we go. Go to your routes config and add something called in fact, let's add it here. Where do you add something called can activate, right? So can activate, so this is going to be the home page. Can activate is going to be our auth guard. Okay, same as what? Do I need to call it? I don't think I need to call it. Can activate needs to be our auth guard. Let's see. Oh, he expects an array. Okay, it needs to be an array of auth guards that protect that page. Same thing here, can activate is going to be an array of auth guards. Okay, so now it's going to refresh, and now if I go to the browser, what you're going to see if I try to refresh this, why are you not doing your job? Go to the dashboard. Okay, I'm going to do something like this. Okay, nope, it's not working. What am I doing wrong? What I want to show you is if you go to your dashboard without it being signed in, or without being signed in, it's going to take you to the sign in page, and if you are signed in, then it's going to work, right? But I just want to see what I am missing here, because our auth guard does get called. Take user, share replay. If there is a user, return true. If there is no user, take them to the login page. Return true, it can activate. If there is no user, take them to the login page. Okay, this might be another confusion. Where are you? Okay, that's 10. That's gonna work. You know what you can do? Let's add a guest auth guard. Guest auth guest dot auth guard, and that's going to allow guest dot guard dot ts. That's going to allow users to be able to browse our app without being logged in. I'm going to show you now why we're doing that. Export const auth guard can activate. Same thing there that we did last time. Guest guard. Put in the auth service. Inject the auth service. Inject the router. Import the router. Import inject. Auth service. Okay, and we're going to return auth service dot current user dot pipe. We're going to take one, just take one like we did before, and we're going to map that user. We're going to map that user to, if there is a user, we obviously want it to go to the dashboard. We want it to go to the dashboard. Oh, I need to import this. If there is a user, I want it to go to the dashboard. And obviously, if there is no user, if there is no user, allow them to proceed to wherever they're going, right? Is not assignable to type, can activate. Nope, can activate function. There we go. That's the one we want. Okay, can activate function if they have an account, allow them to go to the dashboard or force them to go to the dashboard. If they don't have an account, take them to what you call this, to the other page that they're trying to access, right? And it's the guest guard that we want to use. For login, we want to use the guest guard. For the dashboard, we want to use the auth guard. So for the home path, let's use the guest guard, because that's where we can add our sign in button. In fact, let's move this one here. Then it's going to be login, then it's going to be sign up, then it's going to be dashboard. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So that's going to be the that's the home page. That's the home page. Do we want this one here? Actually, no. Let's move it out. It's these two where we actually want to have something like that, so that they can access it without having, without being logged in. So they should be able to sign in and sign up without being logged in. Okay. Let's see how it behaves now. So go home, go to dashboard. I feel like our auth guard is not doing what you want it to do, and that's not good, because I can still go to the dashboard. Okay, anyways, we can come back to that. That's something to debug at the end. So for now, let's just wrap up the other stuff. So we can sign in, we can sign up, and the other thing that we need now is to be able to log out. So remember, auth within an app requires at least those three. You should be able to create an account, you should be able to log into that account, and you should be able to sign out of that account. Yeah, so we're going to come back to the auth guards. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something there. So we can come back to it and figure out why it's not forcing the user to sign in when they go to the dashboard. So for now, let's just do the sign out functionality. So what we want to tap into is this part here. These tabs here, right? And those tabs are configured in app.ts. Obviously, that's the root element. Let's put them side by side, something like this. Close that one. Okay, there we go. Let's close this one too. So those ones are configured in app.ts. And what we're going to do there in app.ts is allow the user to actually sign out. So same as before, we want to have private, the auth service. We're almost done. We're almost done, everyone. Auth service is equal to inject the auth service. Inject the auth service. And the other one obviously is the router, right? So once someone has successfully signed out, we want them to be forced back into the login page, right? So router is going to be inject the router, sorry. Inject the router. Auth service, that's going to be auth service, import that. And then the logout action is basically going to be us awaiting this .auth service dot the logout function that we wrote. Okay, make it async maybe. Let's make it async. And then once they've successfully logged out, we want to take them to the login page where they can actually log in again, right? Navigate to login. It expects an array. So let's do an array. Let's do an array. Is my mic still working? Yep. Okay, let's do an array. And then, so we're going to log out, and then we're going to be able to navigate them to what do you call this, to the login screen once they've actually logged out. Okay. So these are our navs. Where can we have the logout button? I'm trying to think. Okay. Let's add a section, and in that section, if there is a currently logged in user, the current user, I feel like we need a current user somewhere. Current user, obviously it's going to be this, is equal to this.authservice.current user. Okay, so which means here we can say if there is a current user, remember this is an observable, so we need to use this async thing here as the current user. Get the current user. We need to import the pipe, the async module. So for us to be able to use the async pipe, we need to import the async module. Async, oh, not the async module, async pipe. Okay, so if there is a current user, I feel like maybe we can show. Oh, let's do it like this. If there is a current user, we want to show these tabs, of course. If there is a current user, we want to show these tabs, but we also want to show. We also want to show. We also want to show the email of that user. So the user that's logged in, we want to show the email, right? So that they can see what account they logged into. So user user.email. Okay. So that's going to give us the user email. We can make it not show that big or not be to not stand out like that. Make it a nav link. It's not really a nav link, but we're styling it as a nav link. Light, and then make it basically this, light emphasis. So it's just going to darken it a bit compared to these ones, right? Okay, so that's sorted. But now, if there is no logged in user, right? So this one is when there is a user. If there is no logged in user, if there is no logged in user, we just want to show, well, the dashboard and the other stuff are not going to be there. What we want to show instead are these links where they can sign in. And in fact, let's just show the sign in option where they can go and what do you call this? And sign in. So this is going to be a nav link. It's going to be a nav link. And what you wanted to do, router link, is take them to the login page, right? The login page that we created. And then we're going to have router link active. Let's set it to true. I'm thinking if we need it, but let's set it to true. And sign in. Okay, so this is going to take them to the sign in page. So now if we go back to our browser here, oh, I did sign in. So which means if I go back to Firebase, I should see my account. Wow. When did I create an account? This is actually why my my auth guard was not working, because I actually have an account. I've already signed in. So when it saw that, my auth guard was like, you already signed in, so there's nothing to protect against, and it just allowed it to go through. So the auth guard was doing what it's supposed to do. So again, it's not code, it's us getting lost. But if we are signed in, what we can do, maybe just to make our lives easy here, to test all of this functionality, is to add the ability for us to to log out. So we can move this button here at the top so that not log out, let's say sign out. Sign out, log out is same thing to me. And when this button is clicked, right? So when this button is clicked, we want to say log out, the log out that we implemented. So log out. Log out. What am I missing? It's the dot. There we go. We want to be able to log out. Okay, so when the button is clicked, obviously we need to style our button. So it's a btn, then you make it a btn. We don't want a primary here since it's at the top, right? So let's make it outlined, like a light outline button. Make it small, btn small. I think that should be enough. Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want. Look at that. Ooh, it's not nice though. It would be nice if they could be next to each other. Let's copy this here, put it here. So now they're next to each other. There we go. That's what we want. So the dashboard. Dashboard is working. The button is too big. Okay, anyways, that's something that you can figure out. So we have the logout, we have home button, home, dashboard, and logout, right? And now I can show you the auth guards. So if you are not signed in, you are able to access the login page, of course, but you're also able to access the sign up page because we're using the guest auth guard, which basically says if you don't have an account, take them to sign in. Or just allow them to go through. In fact, the guest auth guard is not needed. It's just a habit of adding it. Actually don't need the guest auth guard because Angular would allow them to go through anyways. But here's the cool part. So remember we said if we say dashboard, we're supposed to be blocked because we're not signed in, and we are blocked, right? So if I go straight to the dashboard, so let's say this is my home router, and I try to go to the dashboard, it's going to take me out to the sign-in page where I'm forced to create an account. And yeah, that's basically all. That's basically how you can implement auth in Angular. So if I do something like this, did I use this email when I actually created the account? I'm so confused. Let's delete this user. Delete account, because I really have no idea when I created that email. Okay, there we go. Deleted that user. So I'm going to try to sign in again. Test 1, 2, 3. So now I expect it to say this account does not exist or something like that. Okay. We need to we need to work on this to show Ellie. But again, that's another exercise that you can look at. Invalid email or password because the account does not exist, which means if I come here and I create an account, gmail.com, test 1, 2, 3, create an account, it should do its thing and take me to the dashboard. And that's it. It's working. Thank you, everyone. I think that is it. Obviously, we're going to zip this up and send it out to everyone via email and the WhatsApp group. And looking forward to next week. So next week, we're going to use what you've built this week to actually connect what you've done to the database, meaning we can now be able to write all of these data that we're producing here, these CVs, to the database, which is going to make way for next week when we're actually going to build the AI functionality to generate CVs and cover letters. But yeah, that is that. Thanks everyone. I think that's it.